Well, it is hard to believe 2 years have gone by since the siege on our capital.
For those of us here in Washington and the area, we've had a front row seat to the aftermath.
Our chief investigative reporter Eric Fleck has spent much of that time covering it all for us. He is here with us this morning to help give us a bit of context and clarity as we talk about this. 2 years worth of reporting, Eric, and first let me commend you and the team because you guys have done award-winning, incredible work. That's also been cited by the Justice Department as well. We should note that.
Thank you.
But given everything that you've seen over the past 2 years, it's remarkable that 2 years later we're still talking about even some of the legal issues that are associated with this.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about this offset, right? The fact that we have been reporting on this day after day for 2 years, and it almost makes it feel like it was longer than 2 years. Let's begin this morning with the latest numbers just released by the Department of Justice. In the 24 months since the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, the DOJ has arrested more than 950 defendants, with 284 being charged with assaulting police officers. 99 of those who have been charged with using a deadly or dangerous weapon or causing bodily injury against a police officer. 140 police officers were assaulted January 6th as they defended the Capitol, and 50 defendants have been charged with conspiracy, including members of far-right organizations like the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, who are charged with seditious conspiracy, which is the attempt to oppose the U.S. government. And get this, guys, the DOJ says it is not finished, promising another 1,000 arrests.
So we've seen those arrests continue, right? But we've also seen a lot of these bigger cases move forward. Can you give us some context?
Yeah, the wheels of justice certainly continue to move, and probably the most notable case are those Oath Keeper trials, which were actually split into 3 different trials because the group of militia members who allegedly took part is so big. 6 weeks ago, a jury convicted 2 members of the Oath Keepers of seditious conspiracy, finding militia founder Stuart Rhodes and one of his top lieutenants plotted to forcibly oppose the government following the 2020 election. A second Oath Keeper trial is underway, with a third planned for later this year. Guys, 5 members of a second far-right group known as the Proud Boys, they have a trial going on right now as well.
Wow. And Eric, before we came on the air, you were commenting and sharing a sentiment that you no longer see the U.S. Capitol the same anymore after covering all of this. As we move forward to the new year, what strikes you most from all of this?
Well, Annie, I don't think it's just me that doesn't see the Capitol differently. I recall my conversations with Shane Smith, a former staff member for Nancy Pelosi earlier this year. He is still so troubled and affected by what he went through on January 6th, and is now part of the January 6th Oral History Project to try and preserve some of the history and the memories from that day to make sure nobody ever forgets that this did actually happen. I also think about my conversations with Staff Sergeant Aquilino Gonell, a former sergeant with the U.S. Capitol Police Department, who actually just last month had to separate from the department just years from retirement because he carries those physical and mental scars with him. Even though it would have made more sense financially for him to kind of stick it out, he said it's just not good for myself, for my family, for my person.
Traumatic.
Yeah, and I think just, so many people are still living with this every day, 2 years later.
In the seconds we have left, some people still, though, stand by what happened. They feel like they were on the righteous side of this, even after all of these, what we've seen physically play out in the committee hearings. You've covered this extensively. What's your one word on the division that still exists?
Stop it. Because, as we continue to get farther and farther apart politically and debate history, what we all saw with our own 2 eyes, we get farther and farther away from solving the problems of this country. And I think that is something that, one thing really all Americans, that even the people I speak with, no matter where you stand, want from our government is some sort of unity and progress.
And just to piggyback, it is pretty wild to think that even with the report from the House Select Committee, it's in the history books forever, but there are still people out there that believe otherwise.
Which is why it's so important that we continue to remember these days and these memorials and these anniversaries. So those of us who lived through it on the front lines, all of us here, make sure we do our part to make sure that no one ever does really forget or deny what happened.
Because it matters.
Yep.
All right. Chief Investigative Reporter Eric Fleck, always good to see you, friend.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Good morning.